Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining the today's reading of the part 2 of the Journey of Self-Discovery by Srila Prabhupada. So this book has been given as various lectures and published in Back to Godhead as articles. They are compiled into a book form by the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. The Founder-Ācārya for this mission is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. And all his books and lectures and everything is published by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust International. And they have been presented in the Veda base by all these devotees. So we thank everyone at BBT for publishing all the books, and as well as the devotees from the Veda base and making it available on the online form and Veda base IO. So before we start the reading, so we want to offer the prayers and Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Vrave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha Namavom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranavami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So continuing the part 2 of the Journey of Self-Discovery from chapter 2. Super consciousness. Everyone can see God. The Vedic literature is unique among all the world's scriptures because it details a practical process by which anyone can purify his or her consciousness and see God face to face. In this lecture, delivered in Los Angeles on August 15, 1972, Srila Prabhupada explains, one must actually be very eager to see God. One must be very serious and think, yes, I have been informed about God, so if there is a God, I must see him. Tatshadhadhamayo munayo, Satshadhadhana munayo, Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya, Pashyan Chatmani Chatman, Bhaktya Gruhitaya. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes the absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedic literature, Vedanta Sruti. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text number 12. People sometimes ask, have you seen God? Or, can you show me God? Sometimes we meet these questions. So the answer is yes, I am seeing God. You can also see God. Everyone can see God. But you must have the qualification. Suppose something is wrong with a motor car. It's not running. Everyone is seeing it, but a mechanic sees it differently. He is qualified to see it with greater understanding. So he replaces some missing part and immediately the car runs. But although for seeing a machine we require so much qualification, we want to see God without any qualification. Just see the folly. People are such rascals, they are such fools that they want to see God with their imagined qualifications. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita. I'm not exposed to everyone. My energy, yogamaya, is covering me from their vision. So how can you see God? But this rascaldom is going on. This, how can you show me God? Have you seen God? God has become just like a plaything. So that cheaters advertise some ordinary man by saying, here is God, here is an incarnation of God. Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhama. Sinful rascals, fools, the lowest of mankind, they inquire like that. Can you show me God? What qualification have you acquired by which you can see God? Here is the qualification. Tat Shraddhadhana Munayaha. One must first of all be faithful, Shraddhadhana. One must actually be very much eager to see God. Not that one takes it as a frivolous thing. Can you show me God? Or as some magic. They think God is magic. No. One must be very serious and think, yes, I have been informed about God, so if there is a God, I must see him. There is a story in this connection. It is very instructive, so try to hear. One professional reciter was publicly reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he was describing that Krishna is very highly decorated with all kinds of jewels when he goes to tend the cows in the forest. So there was a thief in that meeting, and he thought, why not go to Vrindavan and plunder this boy? He is in the forest with so many valuable jewels. I can go there and catch the child and take all the jewels. This was his intention. So he was serious. I must find that boy. He thought, then in one night I shall become a millionaire. The thief's qualification was his feeling. I must see Krishna. I must see Krishna. That anxiety, that eagerness made it possible for him to actually see Krishna in Vrindavan. He saw Krishna in the same way as the Bhagavatam reader had described. Then the thief said, oh, you are such a nice boy, Krishna. He began to flatter him. He thought that by flattering him, he would easily take all the jewels. Then he proposed his real business. May I take some of these ornaments? You are so rich. No, 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 said Krishna. My mother will be angry. I cannot give them away. Krishna was playing just like a child. So the thief became more and more eager for Krishna to give him the jewels. But by Krishna's association, he was becoming purified. Then at last Krishna said, all right, you can take them. Then the thief became a devotee immediately, because by Krishna's association, he had been completely purified. So somehow or other, you should come in contact with Krishna. Then you will be purified. The gopis are another example of great eagerness to see Krishna. The gopis came to Krishna, being captivated by his beautiful features. They were young girls, and Krishna was so beautiful. Actually, they were lusty when they came to Krishna. But Krishna is so pure that they became first-class devotees. There is no comparison to the gopis' devotion, because they loved Krishna with heart and soul. That is the qualification. They loved Krishna so much that they did not care for family or reputation when they went out in the dead of night. Krishna's flute was sounding, and they were all fleeing their homes. Their father, their brother, their husbands all said, where are you going? Where are you going in this dead of night? But the gopis didn't care. They neglected their children, their family, everything. Their only thought was, we must go to Krishna. This eagerness is required. We must be very, very eager to see Krishna. Many gopis who were forcibly stopped from going to Krishna lost their lives because of their great feelings of separation. So this eagerness is wanted. Then you can see God. Whether you are lusty or a thief or a murderer or whatever it may be, somehow or other, you must develop this eagerness, this desire. I must see Krishna. Then Krishna will be seen. The first thing Krishna is looking for is how eager you are to see him. Krishna will respond. If you are actually eager to see Krishna, whether you are lusty or you want to steal his ornaments, or some way or other you have become attracted to Krishna, then it is sure your efforts will be successful. But you must desire Krishna only. In this connection, Rupa Goswami has written a verse. Smeram bhangitraya parichitam sachi vistirna drishtim namsi न्यस्ताधर किसलयाम उज्ज्वलाम चंद्रकेन गोविंदाख्याम हरितनुम हितकेशि तीर्थोपकंठे मा प्रेक्षितास तव यदि सखे बंधु संगे अस्ति रंगः. Idea is that one gopi is advising another gopi. My dear friend, there is one boy, his name is Govinda. He is standing on the bank of the Yamuna near Kesighat, and he is playing on his flute. He is so beautiful, especially during this full moon night. If you have any intentions to enjoy in this material world with your children, husband, or other family members, then please do not go there. Bhangitraya. Krishna always stands in a three-curved way with his flute. That is Krishna's Tribhanga form, bending in three places. So the one gopi says to the other, if you think that you will enjoy your life more in this material world, then do not go to see Krishna. Do not go there. The idea is that if you want to see Krishna, then you will forget all this nonsensical materialistic enjoyment. That is seeing Krishna. When Dhruva Maharaj saw Krishna, he said, Swamin Kritardhosmi Varam na yache. My dear Lord, I don't want anything else. Dhruva Maharaj went to see Krishna to get the kingdom of his father. And when he saw Krishna, Krishna offered, now whatever benediction you want, you take. Dhruva said, my dear Lord, I no longer have any desire. That is seeing Krishna. So if you are eager to see Krishna, regardless of whatever motive you have, somehow or other, due to your eagerness, you will see Krishna. That is the only qualification. In another verse, Rupa Goswami says, Krishna Bhakti Rasabhavita Mati Kriyatam Yadi Kutobi Labhyate. I have translated the words Krishna Consciousness from Krishna Bhakti Rasabhavita. So here Rupa Goswami advises, if Krishna Consciousness is available, please purchase it immediately. Don't delay. It is a very nice thing. Yes, Krishna Consciousness is available. You can purchase it from this Krishna Consciousness movement. But what is the price? It is such a nice thing, but you have to pay the price. What is that? Tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam. Simply your eagerness. That is the price. You have to pay this price. Then you get Krishna immediately. Krishna is not poor. And the Krishna seller, the Krishna's devotee, he is also not poor. He can distribute Krishna free. And he is doing that. You simply have to purchase him by your eagerness. Someone may say, oh, eagerness, I have eagerness. But it is not so easy. Janma koti sukritaya na labhyate. This eagerness cannot be achieved even by executing pious activities for millions of births. If you simply go on performing pious activities, still this eagerness is not available. So this eagerness is a very important thing, but it can be awakened only by the association of devotees. Therefore, we are giving everyone a chance to invoke that eagerness. Then you will see God face to face. This life is meant for seeing Krishna. It is not meant for becoming dogs and hawks. Unfortunately, the whole modern civilization is training people to become dogs and hawks. It is only this institution, this Krishna Consciousness movement, that is teaching people how to see Krishna. It is so important. Tatshraddhadana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya. By eagerness, you will automatically be enriched with knowledge and detachment. Knowledge does not mean now we have discovered this atomic bomb. That is not knowledge. What knowledge is that? People are already dying, and you have discovered something that will accelerate death. But we are giving knowledge to stop death. That is Krishna Consciousness. That is knowledge. Jnana vairagya yuktaya. And as soon as you get this knowledge, automatically you become detached from all this nonsensical materialistic happiness. Thank you very much. Beyond religion. In June 1976, Srila Prabhupada fields questions sent to him from the editors of Bhavan's Journal, one of Bombay's leading cultural and religious periodicals. Devotee. Here is the first question. It is said that the greatest strength of Hinduism is its Catholicity or breadth of outlook, but that this is also its greatest weakness in that there are very few religious observances that are obligatory for all, as in other religions. Is it necessary and possible to outline certain basic minimum observances for all Hindus? Srila Prabhupada. As far as Vedic religion is concerned, it is not for the Hindus. It is for all living entities. That is the first thing to be understood. Vedic religion is called Sanatana Dharma, the eternal occupation of the living entity. The living entity is Sanatana, eternal. God is Sanatana, and there is Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is meant for all living entities, not just the so-called Hindus. Hinduism, this ism, that ism, these are all misconceptions. Historically, Sanatana Dharma was followed regularly in India, and Indians were called Hindus by the Muslims. The Muslims saw that the Indians lived on the other side of the river Sindh, and the Muslims pronounced Sindh as Hind. Therefore, they called India Hindustan, and the people who lived there Hindus. But the word Hindu has no reference in the Vedic literature, nor does so-called Hindu Dharma. Now that Sanatana Dharma or Vedic Dharma is being distorted, not being obeyed, not being carried out properly, it has come to be known as Hinduism. But that is a freak understanding. That is not a real understanding. We have to study Sanatana Dharma as it is described in the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literatures. Then we will understand what Vedic religion is to a devotee. Read from the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 18th verse. Devotee reads, Tvamaksharam paramam veditavyam, tvamasya visvasya param nidhanam, tvam avyaya shashvata dharma gopta, sanatanastvam purusho matome. O Lord Krishna, you are the supreme primal objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You are inexhaustible and you are the oldest. You are the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion. Srila Prabhupada, this understanding is wanted. Krishna is eternal, we are eternal, and the place where we can live and exchange our feelings with Krishna, that is eternal. And the system that teaches this eternal process of reciprocation, that is Sanatana Dharma, which is meant for everyone, devotee. So, what would be the daily prescribed religious observances followed by one who is aspiring for this Sanatana Dharma? What would he do? The complaint is that within Hinduism, or let us say Sanatana Dharma, there is such a breadth. There is so much variegatedness in different types. Srila Prabhupada, why do you go to variegatedness? Why don't you take the real purpose of religion from Krishna? Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita 18.66, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja. Give up all other so-called dharmas and just surrender to me. Why don't you take that? Why are you taking up variegated practices under the name of the so-called Hinduism? Why don't you take the advice of the Sanatana, Krishna? You refuse to accept Sanatana Dharma, what the Sanatana, God says, but you say, how can we avoid so many varieties and come to the right point? Why accept varieties? Take to this one consciousness. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja. Why don't you do that? Devotee. How can people do this practically on a daily basis? Srila Prabhupada. How are we doing it? Is that we are doing not practical? People will manufacture their own impractical way of religion, but they won't take our practical system. What is that? Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Simply think of Krishna, become his devotee, worship him, and offer obeisances to him. Where is the difficulty? Where is the impracticality? Krishna says, this is your duty. If you do this, you will come to me without any doubt. Why don't you do that? Why remain Hindu? Why remain Muslim? Why remain Christian? Give up all this nonsense. Just surrender to Krishna and understand I am a devotee of Krishna, a servant of Krishna. Then everything will immediately be resolved. Devotee. But the Hindus would say there are so many other aspects to Hindu Dharma. Srila Prabhupada. Real Dharma is defined in Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. What God says, that is Dharma. Now God says, give up all other dharmas and just surrender unto me. So take that Dharma. Why do you want to remain a Hindu? And besides, what Hindu does not accept the authority of Krishna? Even today, if any Hindu says, I don't care for Krishna and Bhagavad Gita, he will immediately be rejected as a madman. Why don't you take Krishna's instruction? Why go elsewhere? Your trouble is that you do not know what religion is and you do not know what Sanatana Dharma is. In our Krishna conscious society, there are many who are formerly so-called Hindus, so-called Muslims, and so-called Christians. But now they don't care for Hindu or Muslim or Christian. They care only for Krishna. That's all. If you follow a false religious system, you suffer. But if you follow a real religious system, you will be happy. Unfortunately, the Indian people gave up the real religious system, Sanatana Dharma or Varnashrama Dharma, and accepted a hodgepodge thing called Hinduism. Therefore, there is trouble. Vedic religion means Varnashrama Dharma, the division of society into 4 social classes and 4 spiritual orders of life. The 4 social classes are the Brahmanas, priests and intellectuals, the Kshatriyas, political leaders and military men, the Vaishyas, merchants and farmers, and the Sudras, manual laborers. The 4 spiritual orders are the Brahmacharis, celibate students, the Grihasthas, householders, the Vanaprasthas, retired persons, and the Sannyasis, renunciates. When all these classes and orders work harmoniously to satisfy the Lord, that is real religion or Dharma. Devotee. The next question is this. In the Kali Yuga, the present age of quarrel, bhakti, devotional service to God, has been described as the most suitable path for God realization. Yet, how is it that Vedantic teachings which stress jnana, knowledge or intellectual speculation, are emphasized by noted savants? Srila Prabhupada. The so-called Vedantists are cheaters. They do not know what Vedanta is, but people want to be cheated, and the cheaters are taking advantage of them. The word Veda means knowledge, and Anta means end. So the meaning of Vedanta is the ultimate knowledge. And the Vedanta Sutra teaches this. A sutra is an aphorism. In a few words, a big philosophy is given. The first aphorism in the Vedanta Sutra is Adhato Brahma Jignasa. Now in the human form of life, one should inquire about Brahman, the absolute truth. So the study of the Vedanta Sutra begins when one is inquisitive about the absolute truth. And what is that absolute truth? That is answered in a nutshell in the second aphorism. Janmajyasya yataha. Brahman is the origin of everything. So Brahman is God, the origin of everything. And all Veda or knowledge culminates in him. This is confirmed by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 15.15. Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedya. The purpose of all the Vedas, all books of knowledge, is to search out me. So the whole Vedanta Sutra is a description of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because in this Kali Yuga, people will not be able to study Vedanta Sutra nicely on account of a lack of education, Srila Vyasadeva personally wrote a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. The commentary is Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhashyam Brahma Sutranam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the real commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, written by the same author, Vyasadeva, under the instruction of Narada, his spiritual master. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the same aphorism as the Vedanta Sutra, Janmajyasya yataha, and then continues, Anvayat itaratas chardheshva bhignaswarat. So actually in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Vedanta Sutra is explained by the author of the Vedanta Sutra. But some rascals, without understanding the Vedanta Sutra, without reading the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, are posing themselves as Vedantis and misguiding people. And because people are not educated, they are accepting these rascals as Vedantis. Actually, the so-called Vedantis are bluffers. They are not Vedantists. They do not know anything of the Vedanta. The Vedanta Sutra is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. And if we take Srimad Bhagavatam as the real explanation of the Vedanta Sutra, we can understand that what Vedanta is. But if we take shelter of the bluffers, then we will not learn Vedanta. People do not know anything. So they can be bluffed and cheated by anyone. But now they should learn from the Krishna Consciousness movement what Vedanta is and what the explanation of Vedanta is. Then they will be benefited. Devotee. Generally, those who follow the impersonalistic commentary on the Vedanta Sutra are concerned with liberation from the miseries of the material world. Does Srimad Bhagavatam also describe liberation? Srila Prabhupada, yes. Since Srimad Bhagavatam is the real commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, we find this verse describing liberation in this age. Kaler dosha nidhi rajan asti eka mahan gunaha kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. In this Kali Yuga, which is an ocean full of faults, there is one benediction. What is that? One can become liberated simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. This is real Vedanta, and actually it is happening. Devotee, are you saying that the conclusion of the Vedanta Sutra and the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam are one and the same, Bhakti? Srila Prabhupada, yes. Devotee, but how does Bhakti tie in the conclusion of Vedantic knowledge or wisdom? Here it says that Bhakti is in the most suitable and easiest path of God realization, but it also says that the Vedantic teachings stress gnana or knowledge. Is that a fact? Srila Prabhupada, what is gnana? That is explained by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Bahunam janmanam ante gnanavan mam prapajyate. After many, many births, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me. So unless one surrenders to Krishna, there is no gnana. This impersonalistic gnana is all nonsense. The impersonalists are passing themselves off as gnanis, but they have no knowledge at all. Vedanta means the ultimate knowledge. So the subject matter of ultimate knowledge is Krishna, God. If one does not know who God is, who Krishna is, then where is one's knowledge? But if a rascal claims, I am a man of knowledge, then what can be done? In the same verse we just mentioned, Krishna concludes, Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlavaha. And one understands that Vasudeva, Krishna, is everything, one is in knowledge. Before that, there is no knowledge. It is simply misunderstanding. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaneti, Sabhyate. One may begin by searching out impersonal Brahman by speculative method, and then one may progress to the realization of Paramatma, the localized aspect of the Supreme. That is the secondary stage of realization. But the final stage is understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So if you do not understand Krishna, where is your knowledge? Halfway knowledge is no knowledge. We want complete knowledge. And that complete knowledge is possible by the grace of Krishna through Bhagavad Gita. Devotee, can I ask the next question, Srila Prabhupada? Is a guru essential for one to enter the spiritual path and attain the goal? And how does one recognize one's guru? Srila Prabhupada, yes, a guru is necessary. That is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna and Arjuna were talking as friends, there was no conclusion. Therefore, Arjuna decided to accept Krishna as his guru. To a devotee, find out this verse, Karpanya doshopahata svabhava. Devotee reads, Karpanya doshopahata svabhava pruchhami tvam dharma samudha chetaha yasheyasyam nischitam bruhitanme sishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendering to you. Please instruct me. Bhagavad Gita 2.7. Srila Prabhupada. Not only Arjuna, but everyone is perplexed about his duty. Nobody can decide for himself. When a physician is seriously sick, he does not prescribe his own treatment. He knows his brain is not in order, so he calls for another physician. Similarly, when we are perplexed, bewildered, when we cannot reach any solution, at that time the right person to reach out is the Guru. It is essential. You cannot avoid it. So in our present state of existence, we are all perplexed. And under the circumstances, a guru is required to give us real direction. Arjuna represents the perplexed materialistic person who surrenders to a guru. And to set the example, Arjuna decided on Krishna as his guru. He did not go to anyone else. So the real guru is Krishna. Krishna is guru not only for Arjuna but for everyone. If we take instruction from Krishna and abide by that instruction, our life is successful. The mission of the Krishna Consciousness movement is to get everyone to accept Krishna as guru. That is our mission. We don't say, I am Krishna. We never say that. We simply ask people, please abide by the orders of Krishna. Devotee. Some of these so-called gurus will say some things that Krishna says, but they will give other instructions also. What is the position of such persons? Srila Prabhupada, they are most dangerous, most dangerous. They are opportunists. According to the customer, they give some teaching, so he will be pleased. Such a person is not a guru. He is a servant. He wants to serve his so-called disciples so that they may be satisfied and pay him something. A real guru is not a servant of his disciples. He is their master. If one becomes a servant, if he wants to please the disciples by flattering them to get their money, then he is not a guru. A guru should also be a servant, yes, but a servant of the Supreme. The literal meaning of the word guru is heavy, heavy with knowledge and authority. Because his knowledge and authority come from Krishna. You cannot utilize the guru for satisfying your whims. Krishna says, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. And we say the same thing, surrender to Krishna. Give up all other ideas of so-called dharma or religiosity. We don't say, I am the authority. No, we say Krishna is the authority. And you should try to understand Krishna. This is the Krishna Consciousness movement. The unseen controller. Even the most complicated computers need trained men to handle them. Similarly, we should know that this great machine, which is known as the cosmic manifestation, is manipulated by a supreme spirit. That is Krishna. In an excerpt from his book, Krishna Consciousness, The Matchless Gift, Srila Prabhupada offers intriguing insights into how God creates and controls the universe. The purpose of this Hare Krishna movement is to bring man back to his original consciousness, which is Krishna consciousness, clear consciousness. When water falls from the clouds, it is uncontaminated, like distilled water. But as soon as it touches the ground, it becomes muddy and discolored. Similarly, we are originally pure spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna. And therefore, our original constitutional position is as pure as God's. In Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Sri Krishna says, Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manashyasthani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Thus, all living entities are part and parcel of Krishna. It should always be remembered that when we speak of Krishna, we are speaking of God. Because the name Krishna denotes the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a fragment of gold is qualitatively the same as a gold reservoir, so the minute particles of Krishna's body are therefore qualitatively as good as Krishna. The chemical composition of God's body and the eternal spiritual body of the living entity is the same, spiritual. Thus, originally, in our uncontaminated condition, we possessed a form as good as God's. But just as rain falls to the ground, so we come in contact with this material world, which is manipulated by the external energy or material nature. When we speak of external energy or material nature, the questions may be asked, whose energy? Whose nature? Material energy or nature is not active independently. Such a concept is foolish. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that the material nature does not work independently. When a foolish man sees a machine, he may think that it is working automatically. but actually it is not. There is a driver, someone in control. Although we sometimes cannot see the controller behind the machine due to our defective vision. There are many electronic mechanisms which work very wonderfully, but behind these intricate systems is a scientist who pushes the button. This is very simple to understand. Since a machine is matter, it cannot work on its own accord, but must work under the spiritual direction. A tape recorder works, but it works according to the plans and under the direction of a living entity, a human being. The machine is complete, but unless it is manipulated by a spirit soul, it cannot work. Similarly, we should understand that this cosmic manifestation which we call nature, is a great machine, and that behind this machine there is God, Krishna. This is also affirmed in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Mayajakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanayana kaunteya jagadvi parivartate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all the moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Bhagavad Gita 9:10. So Krishna says that material nature is acting under his direction, that behind everything there is a supreme controller. Modern civilization does not understand this due to lack of knowledge. It is the purpose of this society for Krishna consciousness. Therefore, to enlighten all people who have been maddened by the influence of the three modes of material nature. In other words, our aim is to awaken mankind to its normal condition. There are many universities, especially in the United States, and many departments of knowledge. But they are not discussing these points. Where is the department for this knowledge that we find given by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita? When I spoke before, some students and faculty members at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the first question I raised was, where is the technological department which is investigating the difference between a dead man and a living man? When a man dies, something is lost. Where is the technology to replace it? Why don't scientists try to solve this problem? Because this is a very difficult subject matter, they set it aside and busily engage in the technology of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. However, the Vedic literatures inform us that this is animal technology. Animals are also trying their best to eat well, to have an enjoyable sex life, to sleep peacefully, and to defend themselves. What then is the difference between man's knowledge and the animal's knowledge? The fact that is that man's knowledge should be developed to explore that difference between a living body and a dead body. That spiritual knowledge was imparted by Krishna to Arjuna in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Being a friend of Krishna's, Arjuna was a very intelligent man. But his knowledge, as all men's, was limited. Krishna spoke, however, of subject matters which were beyond Arjuna's finite knowledge. These subjects are called adhokshaja, because our direct perception by which we acquire material knowledge fails to approach them. For example, we have many powerful microscopes to see what we cannot see with our limited vision. But there is no microscope that can show us the soul within the body. Nevertheless, the soul is there. The Bhagavad Gita informs us that in this body there is a proprietor, the spirit soul. I am the proprietor of my body, and other souls are proprietors of their bodies. I say my hand, but not I hand. Since it is my hand, I am different from the hand, being its owner. Similarly, we speak of my eye, my leg, my this, and my that. In the midst of all these objects which belong to me, where am I? The search for the answer to this question is the process of meditation. In real meditation, we ask, where am I? What am I? We cannot find the answers to these questions by any material effort. And because of this, all the universities are setting these questions aside. They say it is too difficult a subject, or they brush it aside, it is irrelevant. Thus, engineers direct their attention to creating and attempting to perfect the horseless carriage and the wingless bird. Formerly, horses were drawing carriages and there was no air pollution. But now there are cars and airplanes, and the scientists are very proud. We have invented horseless carriages and wingless birds, they boast. Although they invent imitation wings for the airplane, they cannot invent a soulless body. When they are able to do this, they will deserve credit. But such an attempt would necessarily be frustrated. For we know that there is no machine that can work without a spirit soul behind it. Even the most complicated computers need trained men to handle them. Similarly, we should know that this great machine known as the cosmic manifestation is manipulated by a supreme spirit. That is Krishna. Scientists are searching for the ultimate cause or the ultimate controller of this material universe and are postulating different theories and proposals. But the real means for knowledge is very easy and perfect. We need only hear from the perfect person, Krishna. By accepting the knowledge imparted in Bhagavad Gita, anyone can immediately know that this great cosmic machine, of which the earth is a part, is working so wonderfully because there is a driver behind it, Krishna. Our process of knowledge is very easy. Krishna's instruction, Bhagavad Gita, is the principal book of knowledge given by the Adipurusha himself, the supreme primeval person, the supreme personality of Godhead. He is indeed the perfect person. It may be argued that although we have accepted him as the perfect person, there are many others who do not. But one should not think that this acceptance is whimsical. He is accepted as perfect person on the evidence of many authorities. We do not accept Krishna as perfect simply on the basis of our whims or sentiments. No, Krishna is accepted as God by many Vedic authorities like Vyasadeva, the author of all Vedic literatures. The treasure house of knowledge is contained in the Vedas, and their author, Vyasadeva, accepts Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Vyasadeva's spiritual master, Narada, also accepts Krishna as such. Narada's spiritual master, Brahma, accepts Krishna not only as the Supreme Person, but the Supreme Controller as well. Ishvara Parama Krishna. The Supreme Controller is Krishna. There is no one in the creation who can claim that he is not controlled. Everyone, regardless of how important or powerful, has a controller over his head. Krishna, however, has no controller. Therefore, he is God. He is the controller of everyone, but there is no one superior to him, no one to control him, nor is there anyone equal to him, no one to share his platform of absolute control. This may sound very strange, but there are so many so-called gods nowadays. Indeed, gods have become very cheap, being especially imported from India. People in other countries are fortunate that gods are not manufactured there. But in India, gods are manufactured practically every day. We often hear that God is coming to Los Angeles or New York and that people are gathering to receive him, etc. But Krishna is not a type of God who is created in a mystic factory. No, he was not made God. He is God. We should know then on the basis of authority that behind this gigantic material nature, the cosmic manifestation, there is God Krishna. And that he is accepted by all Vedic authorities. Acceptance of authority is not new for us. Everyone accepts authority in some form or another. For education, we go to a teacher or to a school or simply learn from our father and mother. They're all authorities, and our nature is to learn from them. In our childhood, we ask, Father, what is this? And Father would say, this is a pen. These are spectacles, or this is a table. In this way, from the very beginning of life, a child learns from his father and mother. A good father and mother never cheat when their son inquires from them. They give exact and correct information. Similarly, if we get spiritual information from an authority, and if the authority is not a cheater, then our knowledge is perfect. However, if we attempt to reach conclusions by dint of our own speculative powers, we are subject to fall into error. The process of induction, by which one reasons from particular facts or individual cases and arrives at a general conclusion, is never a perfect process. Because we are limited and our experience is limited, the inductive process of acquiring knowledge will always remain imperfect. But if we receive information from the perfect source, Krishna, and if we repeat that information, then what we are speaking can also be accepted as perfect and authoritative. This process of parampara, or disciplic succession, means hearing from Krishna or from authorities who have accepted Krishna and repeating exactly what they have said. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna recommends this process of knowledge. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. Bhagavad Gita 4.2. Formerly, knowledge was passed down by great saintly kings who were the authorities. In previous ages, however, these kings were rishis, great learned scholars and devotees. And because they were not ordinary men, the government which they headed worked very nicely. There are many instances in Vedic civilization of kings who attained perfection as devotees of God. For example, Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest to secure God, and by practice of severe penance and austerity, he found God within 6 months. The Krishna consciousness process is also based on austerity, but it is not very difficult. There are restrictions governing eating and sex life. Only prasadam, food first offered to Krishna, is taken, and sex is restricted to married life. And there are other regulations which facilitate and foster spiritual realization. It is not possible in these days to imitate Dhruva Maharaj, but by following certain basic Vedic principles, we can make advancement in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. As we advance, we become perfect in knowledge. What is the use of becoming a scientist or a philosopher if we cannot say what our next life will be? A realized student of Krishna consciousness can very easily say what his next life is, what God is, what the living entity is, and what his relationship with God is. His knowledge is perfect because it is coming from perfect books of knowledge, such as the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. This then is the process of Krishna consciousness. It is very easy, and anyone can adopt it and make his life perfect. If someone says, I'm not educated at all and I cannot read books, he is still not disqualified. He can still perfect his life by simply chanting the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna has given us a tongue and 2 ears, and we may be surprised to know that Krishna is realized through the ears and tongue, not through the eyes. By hearing his message, we learn to control the tongue. And after the tongue is controlled, the other senses follow. Of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and difficult to control. But it can be controlled simply by chanting Hare Krishna and tasting Krishna Prasadam, food offered to Krishna. We cannot understand Krishna by sensual perception or by speculation. It is not possible. For Krishna is so great that he is beyond our sensual range. But he can be understood by surrender. Krishna therefore recommends this process. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam saranam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayisha masuchaha. Give up all varieties of religiousness and just surrender unto me. And in return, I shall protect you from all sinful reactions. Therefore, you have nothing to fear. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Unfortunately, our disease is that we are rebellious. We automatically resist authority. Yet, although we say that we don't want authority, nature is so strong that it forces authority upon us. We are forced to accept the authority of nature. What can be more pathetic than a man who claims to answer to no authority, but who follows his senses blindly wherever they lead him? Our false claim to independence is simply foolishness. We are all under authority, yet we say that we don't want authority. This is called Maya, illusion. We do, however, have a certain independence. We can choose to be under the authority of our senses or the authority of Krishna. The best and ultimate authority is Krishna, for he is our eternal well-wisher, and he always speaks for our benefit. Since we have to accept some authority, why not accept his? Simply by hearing of his glories from the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and by chanting his names, Hare Krishna, we can swiftly be perfect our lives. Who is Krishna? August 1973 at Bhaktivedanta Manor in the countryside near London, several thousand guests, including the Indian High Commissioner, listened to Srila Prabhupada speak about the confidential identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is revealed in India's timeless Vedic scriptures to be not an old man with a long white beard, but a sublimely attractive and eternal youth. Your Excellency, the High Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your coming here and participating in this ceremony, Janmashtami, the advent of Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyakva deham punarjanma naitima med sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. It is the fact that we can stop our repeated births and deaths and achieve the state of immortality. But the modern civilization, our great philosophers, great politicians, and great scientists, they have no idea that it is possible to attain the stage of Amrtatvam, immortality. We are all Amrta, deathless, immortal. In the Bhagavad Gita 2.20, it is said, Najayate mriyate va kadachit. We living entities, we never die and never take birth. Ajo nichya shasvatoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane siride. Every one of us, we are primeval and eternal, without beginning and without end. And after the inhalation of this body, we do not die. But when the body is finished, we will have to accept another body. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhirastatra namuhyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad Gita 2.13. At the present moment, all over the world, people are lacking knowledge of this simple thing, that all of us living entities are part and parcel of Lord Krishna. That like Krishna, we are eternal, we are blissful, and we are cognizant. Krishna is described in the Vedic literatures. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all, but he has no origin. For he is the prime cause of all causes. Brahma Samhita 5.1. When I say Krishna, that means God. It is sometimes said God has no name. That is the fact. But God's name is given by his activities. For instance, Krishna accepted sonship to Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda Mai, and also to Vasudeva and Devaki. Of course, no one is actually the father or mother of Krishna, because Krishna is the original father of everyone. But when Krishna comes here, when he makes his advent, he accepts certain exalted devotees as his father, as his mother. Still, Krishna is Adipurusham, the original person. Then, must Krishna be very old? No. Navajavanam cha. Always a fresh youth. That is Krishna. When Krishna was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was just like a boy of 20 years, or at most 24 years. But at that time, he had great grandchildren. So Krishna is always a youth. These are the statements of the Vedic literatures. But if we simply read the Vedic literatures as a formality, it will be very difficult to understand what Krishna is, although all the Vedas are meant for understanding Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Krishna says, Vedaisya sarvair ahameva vedya. By all the Vedas, it is I who am to be known. What is the use of studying the Vedas if you do not understand Krishna? The ultimate goal of education is to understand the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Father, the Supreme Cause. As it is said in the Vedanta Sutra, Adhato Brahma Jignasa, now in the human form of life is the time to discuss the Supreme Absolute Truth, Brahma. And what is this Brahma? Janmajyasya yataha. Brahman is the one from whom everything emanates. So science and philosophy mean finding out the ultimate cause of everything. And this we are getting from the Vedic literature, that Krishna is Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. Just try to understand. For instance, I am caused by my father. My father is caused by his father. He is caused by his father. Who is caused by his father? In this way, if you go on searching, then you will ultimately come to someone who is the cause that has no cause. Anadiradir Govinda. The cause that has no cause is Govinda, Krishna. I may be the cause of my son, but at the same time, I am the result of another cause, my father. But the Vedic literature say that Krishna is the original person. He has no cause. That is Krishna. Therefore, Krishna says, just try to learn about the transcendental nature of my advent and activities. The advent of Krishna, it is a very important thing. We should try to understand Krishna. Why he makes his advent, why he comes down to this material world, and what his business is, and what his activities are. If we simply try to understand Krishna, then what will be the result? The result will be Tyaktva deham punarjanma naitima veti sorjana. We will get immortality. The aim of life is amrutattvaya kalpate, to achieve immortality. So today, on the advent of Krishna, we shall try to understand the philosophy of Krishna. His Excellency was speaking of peace. The peace formula is there in the Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Krishna. What is that? Bhoktaram yagne tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gnatma mam santabrichyati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Bhagavad Gita 5.29. The politicians and diplomats are trying to establish peace in the world. We have the United Nations and many other organizations. They are working to establish real peace and tranquility, to eliminate and misunderstanding between man and nation and nation. But that is not happening. The defect is that the root is wrong. Everyone is thinking it is my country, it is my family, it is my society, it is my property. This my is illusion. In the Vedic literature, it is said, Janasya mohoyam aham mameti. This I and my philosophy is Maya, illusion. So if you want to get out of this Maya, this illusion, then you have to accept Krishna's formula. Mame vaye prapajyante, Maya me tam tarantite. Whoever surrenders to Krishna can easily cross beyond all illusion. Everything is there in the Bhagavad Gita for our guidance. If we accept the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, everything is there. Peace is there, prosperity is there. Unfortunately, we do not accept it, or we misinterpret it. This is our misfortune. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.34, Krishna says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Always think of me, become my devotee. Worship me and offer obeisances unto me. Is it a very difficult task? Here is Krishna's deity. If you think of this deity, is it very difficult? You come into the temple and just as a devotee would do, you offer your respect to the deity. As far as possible, try to worship the deity. Krishna does not want your property. Krishna is open to the poorest man for being worshipped. What is he asking? He says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. With devotion, if a person offers me a little leaf, a flower, a little fruit, little water, I accept it. Bhagavad Gita 9.26. Krishna is not hungry. But Krishna wants to make you a devotee. That is the main point. Yome bhaktya prayachati. Offer something to me with devotion. That is the main principle. Offer Krishna some little thing. Krishna is not hungry. Krishna is providing food for everyone. But Krishna wants your love, your devotion. Therefore, he is begging a little water or fruit or a flower. In this way, manmana bhava mad bhakta. You can think of Krishna and become his devotee. There is no difficulty in understanding Krishna and accepting Krishna consciousness, but we will not do it. That is our disease. Otherwise, it is not difficult at all. And as soon as we become a devotee of Krishna, we understand the whole universal situation. Our Bhagavata philosophy, our God conscious philosophy is also a kind of spiritual communism. Because we regard Krishna as the Supreme Father and all living entities as sons of Krishna. And Krishna says, Sarvaloka Maheswaram. He is the proprietor of all planets. Therefore, whatever there is, either in the sky or in the water or in the land, it is all Krishna's property. And because we are all sons of Krishna, every one of us has the right to use our Father's property. But we should not encroach upon others. This is the formula for peace. Ishavashavidam sarvam, magrusak kasyasvidhanam. Everything belongs to God, and since you are sons of God, you have the right to use your Father's property. But do not take more than you need. This is punishable. Ishopanishad 1. If anyone takes more than he needs, then he is a thief. Yajnarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Bhagavad Gita 3.9. Whatever we do, we should do it for the satisfaction of Krishna. We should act for Krishna. We should do everything for Krishna. This is what we are teaching here. In this temple, we are all residing happily. Americans, Indians, Englishmen, Canadians, Africans, people from all different parts of the world. You know that. It is like that not only in this temple, but wherever people are Krishna conscious throughout the world. Krishna makes his advent to teach this lesson. When we forget this philosophy that Krishna is the Supreme Father, Krishna is the Supreme Proprietor, Krishna is the Supreme Enjoyer, and Krishna is the Supreme Friend of everyone, when we forget this, then we come into this material world and struggle for existence, fight with one another. This is material life. Nor can we get any relief through our politicians, diplomats, philosophers. They have tried so much, but actually nothing they have tried has become fruitful. Take the United Nations. It was organized after the Second Great War. And they wanted, we shall now settle everything peacefully. But there is no such thing. The fighting is going on between Pakistan and India, or between Vietnam and America, or this and that. Mundane politics and diplomacy and philosophy, this is not the process. The process is Krishna consciousness. Everyone has to understand this point, that we are not proprietors. The actual proprietor is Krishna. That is a fact. Take America, for example. Say 200 years ago, the European immigrants were not the proprietors. Somebody else was the proprietor. And before that, somebody else was the proprietor. Or it was a vacant land. But the actual proprietor is Krishna. Artificially, we are claiming it is my property. This is called Maya, illusion. So Krishna makes his advent to give us this lesson. Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. My dear Arjuna, I come when there are discrepancies in the process of religious life. Bhagavad Gita 4.7. And what is real dharma, real religious life? The simple definition of dharma is dharmantu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Real religious life is that which is enunciated directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 3rd chapter, text number 19. For instance, what do you mean by civil law? Civil law means the word given by the state. You cannot make civil law at home. That is not possible. Whatever the government gives you, you should act like this. That is law. Similarly, dharma, religious life, means the direction given by God. That is dharma. Simple definition. If you create some dharma, or I create some dharma, or another man creates another dharma, these are not dharma. Therefore, Krishna ends the Bhagavad Gita by saying, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja. Just give up all your concocted ideas about dharma and surrender to me. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. This is dharma. Surrender to Krishna. Any other dharma is not dharma. Otherwise, why does Krishna ask Sarva dharman parityajya? Give it all up. He has already said, in every age I make my advent to establish the principles of religion. And at last he says that we should give up all the so-called religious principles that we have manufactured. All these man-made principles are not actually religious principles. Real dharma, real religious life means what is given by God. But we have no understanding of what God is and what His word is. That is modern civilization's defect. But the order is there. God is there. It is simply that we won't accept. So where is the possibility of peace? Everything is there, ready-made, but we won't accept. So what is the remedy for our disease? We are searching after peace, but we won't accept the very thing that will actually give us peace. This is our disease. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement is trying to awaken the dormant Krishna consciousness in everyone's heart. Just consider, 4 or 5 years ago, these Europeans and Americans had never even heard of Krishna. So how are they now taking Krishna consciousness so seriously? Krishna consciousness is already there in everyone's heart. It simply has to be awakened. And this awakening process is described in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Machalila 22.107. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajya Kabunai, Sravanadi Suddha Chitte Karaye Uday. Love for Krishna, devotion for Krishna is within everyone's heart, but we have forgotten. So this Krishna consciousness movement is simply meant for awakening our dormant love by giving everyone the chance to hear about Krishna. This is the process. For instance, when you are sleeping, I have to call you loudly. Mr. Such and such, get up. You have to tend to this business. No other senses will act when you are sleeping, but the ear will act. Therefore, in this age, when people are so fallen that they will not listen to anything, we chant this Hare Krishna mantra. They will be awakened to Krishna consciousness. This is practical. So if you are actually anxious for peace and tranquility in society, then we must be very serious about understanding Krishna. That is my request. Don't take the Krishna consciousness movement lightly. This movement can solve all the problems of life, all the problems in the world, social, political, philosophical, religious, economic, everything can be solved by Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we request those who are leaders, like His Excellency, who is present here, to try to understand this Krishna consciousness movement. It is very scientific and authorized. It is not a mental concoction or a sentimental movement. It is a most scientific movement. So we are inviting all leaders from all countries to try to understand. If you are sober, if you are actually reasonable, you will understand that this Krishna consciousness movement is the most sublime movement for the welfare of the whole human society. Anyone may come. We are prepared to discuss this subject matter. The ultimate goal of human life is to achieve immortality. Chaktva deham punarjanma naiti. This is our mission, but we have forgotten this. We are simply leading a life of cats and dogs without any knowledge that we can achieve that perfection of life where there will be no more birth, no more death. We do not even understand that there is the possibility of amrutatvam, immortality. But it is totally possible. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to become an old man. Nobody wants to become diseased. This is our natural inclination. Why? Because originally in our spiritual form, there is no birth, no death, no old age, no disease. So after moving through the evolutionary process, up through the aquatics, plants, trees, birds, when at last we come to this human form of body, then we should know what the goal of life is. The goal of life is amrutatvam, to become immortal. Immortal you can become. simply by becoming Krishna conscious. Krishna says it. It is a fact. We simply have to understand. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. If you try to understand Krishna in truth, then tyaktva deham punarjanmaneti. After giving up this body, you won't have to accept any more material bodies. And as soon as you don't accept any more material bodies, that means you have become immortal. The thing is, by nature, we are immortal. And Krishna comes here to teach us this lesson. Mamaivamsho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatanaha manashyasthanindriyani prakritisthani karshati. You are immortal by nature. As spirit soul, you are part and parcel of me. I am immortal, and so you are also immortal. Unnecessarily, you are trying to be happy in this material world. Bhagavad Gita 15.7. You have already tried to find happiness in sensuous life through so many bodies, as cats, as dogs, as demigods, as trees, as plants, as insects. So now that you have a human body with its higher intelligence, don't be captivated by sensuous life. Just try to understand Krishna. That is the verdict of the Vedic literatures. Nayam deho dehabhajam nuloke kastan kaman arhate vidbhujam ye. Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 5, text number 1. To work very hard like dogs and hogs for sense gratification is not the proper ambition of human life. Human life is meant for a little austerity. Tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam siddhet. We have to purify our existence. That is the mission of human life. Why should we purify our existence? Brahma Saukhyam Tvanantam. Because then we will get spiritual realization, the unlimited, endless pleasure and happiness. That is real pleasure, real happiness. Ramante yogino nante satyanande chidatmani iti rama padenasau param brahma vidhiyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth. And therefore, the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama, Padma Purana. All the great saintly persons of India have cultivated this spiritual knowledge so nicely and fully. Formerly, people used to go to India to find out about spiritual life. Even Jesus Christ went there. And yet we are not taking advantage of it. It is not that these literatures and directions are meant only for the Indians, or for the Hindus, or for the Brahmanas. No, they are meant for everyone. Because Krishna claims, Aham Bija Pradapita, I am everyone's father. Therefore, he is very anxious to make us peaceful and happy. Just as an ordinary father wants to see that his son is well situated and happy, similarly, Krishna wants to see every one of us well situated and happy. Therefore, he comes sometimes. This is the process of Krishna's advent. Thank you very much. The Supreme Artist. In February 1973, Srila Prabhupada was invited to speak at an art gallery in Auckland, New Zealand. There, he invited his listeners to contemplate the works of the Supreme Artist, Lord Krishna. The rose is created out of the energies of the Supreme Lord, but these energies are so subtle and so artistic that a nice flower can bloom overnight. So Krishna is the greatest artist. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for coming here and giving us a chance to speak about the Supreme Artist. The Vedas describe how great an artist Krishna is. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, natat samaschat abhyadikasya drishyate. Nobody can be found who is greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead or equal to him. And although he is the greatest artist, he doesn't have to do anything personally. In this world, every one of us knows somebody lesser than us, somebody equal to us, and somebody greater than us. That is our experience. However great you may be, you will find somebody equal to you and somebody greater than you. But as far as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is concerned, great sages have concluded by research and experiment that nobody is equal to him or greater than him. God is so great that he has nothing to do, no duties he must perform. natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. Why? Parashya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. His energies are multifarious and they are working automatically according to his desire. Swabhaviki Gnana Balakriyacha. Suppose you are an artist. To paint a picture of a very nice rose, you have to take your brush, mix your colors on the palette, and tax your brain to make the picture beautiful. But in a garden, you can see not only one rose but many thousands of roses blooming. They have been very artistically painted by nature. But we should go deeper into the matter. What is nature? Nature is a working instrument, that's all, an energy. Without some energy working, how could the rose bloom so beautifully from the bud? There must be some energy working, and that energy is Krishna's energy. But it acts so subtly and swiftly that we cannot understand how it is working. The material energies seem to be working automatically, but actually there is a brain behind them. When you paint a picture, everyone can see that you are working. Similarly, the painting of the actual rose is also worked out by several energies. Don't think that the rose has been created automatically. No, nothing is created automatically. The rose is created out of the energies of the Supreme Lord. But these energies are so subtle and so artistic that a nice flower can bloom overnight. So, Krishna is the greatest artist. Nowadays, in the electronic age, a scientist just pushes a button and his machine works so perfectly. Or an airplane pilot simply pushes a button and a huge machine, just like a small city, flies in the sky. So, if it is possible for ordinary men of this world to work so wonderfully simply by pushing some buttons, how much greater must be God's ability to work? How much more fertile his brain must be than ordinary artists or scientists' brains? Simply by his desire, let there be creation. Everything is immediately manifest. So Krishna is the greatest artist. There is no limit to Krishna's artistic ability because Krishna is the seed of all creation. Bijam mam sarva bhutanam. You have all seen a banyan tree. It grows from a small seed. This small seed has so much potency that if you sow it in a fertile place and water it, one day it will become a big banyan tree. Now, what are the potencies? What are the artistic and scientific arrangements within that small seed that allow it to grow into a big banyan tree? Also, on that banyan tree, there are many thousands of fruits, and within each fruit, there are thousands of seeds, and each seed contains the potency of another tree. So, where is the scientist who can create in that way? Where is the artist within this material world who can create a work of art as pleasing as a banyan tree? These inquiries should be made. The first aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra is Adhato Brahma Jignasa. In the human form of life, one should inquire about the absolute truth. So one should carefully study these questions. You cannot manufacture a machine that automatically grows into a big banyan tree. So don't you think there must be a big artistic brain, a great scientific brain behind nature? If you simply say nature is working, that is not a sufficient explanation. The second aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra is Janma Jasya Yataha. The absolute truth is He from whom everything is generated. We have to expand our vision from the small things to the great things. Now we become amazed when we see a small Sputnik flying in the sky. It is flying toward the moon, and we are giving all credit to the scientists. And the scientists are challenging what is God? Science is everything. But if you are intelligent, you will compare the Sputnik to the millions and trillions of planets and stars. Just on this tiny Earth planet, there are so many oceans, so many mountains, so many skyscrapers. But if you go above this planet a few million miles, it will look just like a small spot. You will see it as just as a spot in the sky. And there are millions of planets floating in the sky like swabs of cotton. So if we give so much credit to the scientists who have manufactured a Sputnik, how much more credit we should give to the person who has manufactured this universal arrangement? This is Krishna consciousness, appreciating the greatest artist, the greatest scientist. We may appreciate so many artists, but unless we appreciate the greatest artist, Krishna, our life is wasted. We find that appreciation in the Brahma Samhita, the prayers of Lord Brahma, the creator of this universe. In appreciation of Govinda, he sings, Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti, kotisvasesha vasudhadi vibhuti bhinnam, tad brahma nishkalamanantam asesha bhutam, Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Now we are trying to understand the planetary system by our scientific method. But we have not been able to finish studying even the nearest planet, the moon, not to speak of the millions and billions of other planets. But from the Brahma Samhita, we get this knowledge. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti kotishu. By the glaring effulgence emanating from Krishna's body, innumerable universes are created. We cannot study even one universe. But from the Brahma Samhita, we get information that there are innumerable universes, and that in each and every universe there are innumerable planets. Jagadanda Koti Kotishu. Jagadanda means universes, and Koti Kotishu means innumerable. So there are innumerable universes with innumerable suns, innumerable moons, and innumerable planets. All of this is made possible by Krishna's bodily effulgence, which is called the Brahma Jyotir. The Jnanis, those who are trying to approach the absolute truth by mental speculation, by dint of their tiny brain power, can at most approach this Brahma Jyotir. But that Brahma Jyotir is only the illumination of Krishna's body. The best analogy is the sunshine. The sunshine is coming from the sun globe. The sun is localized, and the effulgence of the sun, the sunshine, is distributed all over the universe. Just as the moon reflects the sunshine, the sun also reflects the Brahma Jyotir. And the Brahma Jyotir is the bodily effulgence of Krishna. So the greatest art is to understand Krishna. That is the greatest art. If we actually want to be an artist, we should try to understand or try to be intimately associated with the greatest artist, Krishna. For this purpose, we have established the Krishna International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The members of this society are trained to see in everything the display of Krishna's artistic sense. That is Krishna consciousness, to see the artistic hand of Krishna everywhere. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate. Whatever you see is an emanation from me. Everything is created out of my energy. One should understand this fact, that Krishna is the origin of everything. Lord Brahma confirms this in the Brahma Samhita 5.1. Ishvara Paramah Krishna. Krishna is the supreme controller. Here in this material world, we have experience of many controllers. Every one of us is a controller. You are a controller, I am a controller. But above you, there is another controller. And above him, there is another controller, and so on. You may go on searching out controller after controller, and when you come to the supreme controller, he who is not controlled by anyone, but who controls everyone else, that is Krishna. This is our definition of God, the supreme controller. Nowadays, it has become a cheap business to see many gods. But you can test someone to see if he is God. If he is controlled by somebody else, he is not God. Only if he is the supreme controller should you accept him as God. That is the simple test for God. Now, another quality of God is that he is full of pleasure. Anandamayo bhyasat. By nature, the supreme absolute person is Anandamaya, full of pleasure. Suppose you are an artist. You engage in artistic work just to get some pleasure. By painting a picture, you enjoy some rasa, some pleasurable mellow. Otherwise, why would you work so hard? There must be some pleasure in painting. So, Krishna is Rasovaisaha, the reservoir of all pleasurable mellows. He is Sachidananda Vigraha, full of eternality, full of eternity, knowledge, and pleasure. Ananda means pleasure. His pleasure potency is Srimati Radharani. You have seen pictures of Radha and Krishna. So Radharani is the manifestation of Krishna's pleasure potency. As I have already explained, Krishna has innumerable energies, and one of these is his pleasure potency, Radharani. So those who have developed love of God are enjoying transcendental pleasure at every moment by seeing the artistic work of Krishna everywhere. That is the position of a devotee. Therefore, we request everyone to become a devotee, to become Krishna conscious, so that you will see the artistic work of Krishna everywhere. Seeing Krishna everywhere is not difficult. For example, suppose you are thirsty and you drink some water. When you drink, you feel so much pleasure. And Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure. Raso vai saha. So that pleasure you feel by drinking water, that is Krishna. Krishna said this in the Bhagavad Gita 7.8. Rasoham apsu kaunteya. I am the taste of water. For an ordinary person who cannot fully appreciate Krishna, Krishna is giving the instruction that he is the taste of the water that quenches your thirst. If you simply try to understand that this taste is Krishna or God, you become God conscious. So it is not very difficult to become Krishna conscious. You simply require a little training. And if you read Bhagavad Gita as it is, understanding it the way it is stated by Krishna himself, without any rascaldom or false interpretation, you will become Krishna conscious. And if you become Krishna conscious, if your life is successful, you will return to Krishna. Tyakva deham punarjanma naitimam eti. There is no loss in becoming Krishna conscious, but the gain is very great. Therefore, we request all of you to try to become Krishna conscious. Read Bhagavad Gita as it is. You will find all the information you need to become Krishna conscious. Or if you don't want to read Bhagavad Gita, please chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You will still become Krishna conscious. Thank you very much. Absolute love. Everyone is frustrated. Husbands, wives, boys, girls, everywhere there is frustration because our loving propensity is not being utilized properly. In this lecture given in Seattle, Washington in October of 1968, Srila Prabhupada reveals how we can achieve complete satisfaction by directing our love toward the Supreme Person. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisance to my spiritual master, who has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with the torchlight of knowledge. Everyone in this material world is born into ignorance or darkness. Actually, the nature of this material world is that it is dark. It may be lighted with sunlight, moonlight, fire, or electricity, but its nature is dark. That is a scientific fact. So everyone born in this material world, from Brahma, the chief personality in the topmost planet of this universe, down to the ant, is born into the darkness of ignorance. Now the Vedic injunction is Tamasima Jyotirgamaha. Don't remain in darkness, come to the light. And for this, a spiritual master is needed. It is the duty of the spiritual master to open the eyes of the person in darkness with the torch of knowledge. And one should offer one's respectful obeisances unto such a spiritual master. People should not be kept in darkness. They should be brought into the light. Therefore, in every human society, there is a religious institution of some sort. What is the purpose of Hinduism, Mohammedanism, Christianity, or Buddhism? The purpose is to bring people to the light. That is the purpose of religion. And what is that light? That light is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Srimad Bhagavatam states, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The codes of religion are directly given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the state, there are laws that you must follow. The head of the state gives some laws, and if you are a good citizen, you obey those laws and live peacefully. These laws may be different according to time, circumstances, or people. The state laws of India may not agree 100% with the laws of the United States. But in every state, there are laws that you must obey. One has to abide by the law. Otherwise, one is considered the lowest in society, a criminal, and is subject to punishment. That is the general principle. Similarly, religion means to obey the laws of God. That's all. And if a human being does not obey the laws of God, he is no better than an animal. All scriptures, all religious principles are meant to elevate man from the animal platform to the human platform. Therefore, a person without religious principles, without God consciousness, is no better than an animal. This is the verdict of the Vedic literature. Ahara nidra bhayamaidhanam cha samanyam etat pasubhir naranam. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko visesho dharmena hina pasubhi samana. Eating, sleeping, sex, and defense, these four principles are common to both human beings and animals. The distinction between human life and animal life is that a man can search after God, but an animal cannot. That is the difference. Therefore, a man without that urge for searching after God is no better than an animal. Unfortunately, at the present moment, in every state and every society, people are trying to forget God. Some people publicly say there is no God. Others say that if there is a God, he is dead, and so on. They have built such a so-called advanced civilization with so many skyscraper buildings, but they are forgetting that all of their advancement is dependent on God, on Krishna. This is very precarious condition for the human society. There is a very nice story that describes what happens to a society that forgets the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Once a rat was being troubled by a cat. So the rat went to a saintly person who had mystic powers and said, "My dear sir, I am very much troubled." "What is the difficulty?" The rat said, "A cat always chases me, so I have no peace of mind." "Then what do you want?" "Please make me into a cat." "All right, become a cat." After a few days, the cat came into the saintly person and said, "My dear sir, again I am in trouble." "What is the trouble?" "The dogs are chasing me." "Then what do you want?" "Make me a dog." "All right, become a dog." Then after a few days, the dog came and said, "Sir, again I am in trouble." "What is the trouble?" "The foxes are chasing me." "Then what do you want?" "To become a fox." "All right, become a fox." Then the fox came and said, "Oh, tigers are chasing me." "Then what do you want?" "I want to become a tiger." "All right, become a tiger." Now the tiger began to stare at the saintly person. "I shall eat you," the tiger said. "Oh, you shall eat me? I have made you a tiger and you want to eat me?" "Yes, I am a tiger and now I shall eat you." Then the saintly person cursed him. Again become a rat. And the tiger became a rat. So our human civilization is like this. The other day I was reading the World Almanac. It said that within the next 100 years, people will be living underground, like rats. Scientific advancement has created the atomic bomb to kill men. And when it will be used, people will have to go underground and become like rats. From tiger to rat. That is going to happen. It is nature's law. If you defy the laws of your state, you will be put into difficulty. Similarly, if you continue to defy the authority of the Supreme Lord, you will suffer. Again, you will become rats. As soon as the atomic bombs explode, all civilization on the surface of the globe will be finished. You may not like to think about these things. You may regard them as very unpalatable, but these are the facts. Satyam grushyat priyam grushyan ma priya satyam apriyam. It is a social convention that if you want to speak the truth, you should speak it very palatably. But we are not meant for social convention. We are preachers, servants of God. And we must speak the real truth, whether you like it or not. A godless civilization cannot be happy. That is a fact. So we have started the Krishna Consciousness movement to awaken this godless civilization. Just try to love God. This is our simple request. You have love within you. You want to love somebody. A young boy tries to love a young girl tries to love a young boy. This is natural because the loving propensity is within everybody. But we have created circumstances in which our love is being frustrated. Everyone is frustrated. Husbands, wives, boys, girls. Everywhere there is frustration. Because our loving propensity is not being utilized properly. Why? Because we have forgotten to love the Supreme Person. That is our disease. So the purpose of religion is train people how to love God. That is the purpose of all religion. Whether your religion is Christianity or Hinduism or Mohammedanism, the purpose of your religion is to train you how to love God, because that is your constitutional position. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6, it is said, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktiradhokshaje. Now in English dictionaries, this word dharma is generally translated as religion, a kind of faith. But the actual meaning of dharma is essential characteristic. For example, sugar's dharma or essential characteristic is sweetness. If you are given some white powder and you find that it is not sweet, you will at once say, oh, this is not sugar. It is something else. So sweetness is the dharma of sugar. Similarly, a salty taste is the dharma of salt, and pungency is the dharma of chili. Now, what is your essential characteristic? You are a living entity and you have to understand your essential characteristic. That characteristic is your dharma or religion. Not the Christian religion, the Hindu religion, this religion, that religion. Your eternal essential characteristic, that is your religion. And what is that characteristic? Your essential characteristic is that you want to love somebody and therefore you want to serve him. That is your essential characteristic. You love your family, you love your society, you love your community, you love your country. And because you love them, you want to serve them. That tendency to engage in loving service is your essential characteristic, your dharma. Whether you are a Christian, Mohammedan, or a Hindu, this characteristic will remain. Suppose today you are a Christian. Tomorrow you may become a Hindu. But your serving mood, that loving spirit, will stay with you. Therefore, the tendency to love and serve others is your dharma or your religion. This is the universal form of religion. Now, you have to apply your loving service in such a way that you will be completely satisfied. Because your loving spirit is now misplaced, you are not happy. You are frustrated and confused. The Srimad Bhagavatam tells us how to apply our spirit of loving devotion perfectly. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti rahidochyaje ahaituki apratigata yayatma suprasidati. That religion is first class, which trains you to love God. And by this religion, you will become completely satisfied. If you develop your love of God to the fullest extent, you will become a perfect person. You will feel perfection within yourself. You are hankering after satisfaction, full satisfaction. But that full satisfaction can be obtained only when you love God. Loving God is the natural function of every living entity. It does not matter whether you are a Christian or a Hindu or a Mohammedan. Just try to develop your love of God. Then your religion is very nice. Otherwise, it is simply a waste of time. Srama hi kevalam. If after executing rituals in a particular type of religion throughout your whole life, you have no love for God, then you have simply wasted your time. The Krishna Consciousness movement is the postgraduate movement of all kinds of religion. We are inviting all Christians, Muslims, and Hindus, everyone, to please come associate with us and try to love God. And the method is very simple. Just chant His holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All my students are Americans, and they have come from either Christian or Jewish families. None of them have come from Hindu families. So the process I have given them the process of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is universal. It is not Hindu or Indian. The Sanskrit word mantra is a combination of two syllables, man and tra. Man means mind, and tra means deliverance. Therefore, a mantra is that which delivers you from mental concoction, from hovering on the mental plane. So if you chant this mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, very soon you will find that you are coming from the darkness to the light. I do not wish to take much of your time, but I simply want to impress upon you the importance of chanting Hare Krishna. Try an experiment. Chant Hare Krishna for 1 week and see how much spiritual progress you make. We don't charge anything. So there is no loss, but there is great profit. That is guaranteed. Therefore, please chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Entering the spiritual world. Everything in the spiritual world is substantial and original. This material world is only an imitation. It is just like a cinematographic picture in which we see only the shadow of the real thing. In this lecture, delivered in October 1966 in New York City, Srila Prabhupada gives an amazing glimpse into the nature of the spiritual world and some positive instructions on how to arrive there at the end of life's perilous journey. Parastasmat bhavanyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nasyatsu na vinashyati. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Bhagavad Gita 8.20. We cannot calculate the length and breadth of even this universe. Yet, there are millions and millions of universes like this one within the material sky. And above this material sky, there is another sky, which is called the spiritual sky. In that sky, all the planets are eternal, and life is eternal also. We cannot know these things by our material calculations. So we must take this information from the Bhagavad Gita. This material manifestation is only 1/4 of the whole manifestation, both spiritual and material. In other words, 3/4 of the total manifestation is beyond the covered material sky. The material covering is millions and millions of miles thick, and only after penetrating it can one enter the open spiritual sky. Here, Krishna uses the word bhava anya, which means another nature. In other words, there is another spiritual nature besides the material one we ordinarily experience. But even now, we are experiencing the spiritual as well as the material nature. How is that? Because we ourselves are a combination of matter and spirit. We are spirit, and only as long as we are within the material body does it know. As soon as we are out of the body, it is as good as stone. So, since we can all personally perceive that there is spirit as well as matter, we should also know that there is a spiritual world as well. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna discusses the spiritual and material natures. The spiritual nature is superior and the material nature is inferior. In this material world, the material and spiritual natures are mixed. But if we go beyond this material nature altogether, if we go to the spiritual world, we will find only the superior spiritual nature. This is the information we get in the 8th chapter. It is not possible to understand these things by experimental knowledge. The scientists can see millions and millions of stars through their telescopes, but they cannot approach them. Their means are insufficient. What to speak of other planets? They cannot approach even the moon planet, which is the nearest. Therefore, we should try to realize how incapable we are of understanding God and God's kingdom by experimental knowledge. And since understanding this way is not possible, it is foolishness to try. Rather, we have to understand God by hearing Bhagavad Gita. There is no other way. No one can understand who his father is by experimental knowledge. One has to simply believe his mother when she says, "Here is your father." Similarly, one has to believe Bhagavad Gita. Then one can get all the information. Nonetheless, while there is no possibility of experimental knowledge about God, if one becomes advanced in Krishna consciousness, he will realize God directly. For example, through realization, I am firmly convinced of whatever I am saying here about Krishna. I am not speaking blindly. Similarly, anyone can realize God. Swayameva hi spuracchada. Direct knowledge of God will be revealed to anyone who sticks to the process of Krishna consciousness. Such a person will actually understand, yes, there is a spiritual kingdom where God resides, and I have to go there. I must prepare to go there. Before going to another country, one may hear so much about it, but when he actually goes there, he understands everything directly. Similarly, if one takes up the process of Krishna consciousness, one day he will understand God and the kingdom of God directly, and the whole problem of his life will be solved. Here, Krishna uses the word Sanatana to describe that spiritual kingdom. The material nature has a beginning and an end, but the spiritual nature has no beginning and no end. How is that? We can understand by a simple example. Sometimes when there is a snowfall, we see that the whole sky is covered by a cloud. But actually, that cloud is covering only an insignificant part of the whole sky. Because we are very minute, however, when a cloud covers a few hundred miles of the sky, to us, the sky looks completely covered. Similarly, this entire material manifestation, called the Mahatattva, is like a cloud covering an insignificant portion of the spiritual sky. And just as when the cloud clears, when we can see the bright sunlit sky, so when we get clear of this covering of matter, we can see the original spiritual sky. Furthermore, just as a cloud has a beginning and an end, the material nature also has a beginning and an end. And our material body also has a beginning and an end. Our body simply exists for some time. It takes birth, grows, stays for some time, gives off some byproducts, dwindles, and then vanishes. These are the 6 transformations of the body. Similarly, every material manifestation undergoes these 6 transformations. Thus, at the end, this whole material world will be vanquished. But Krishna assures us, parastasmat bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha. Beyond this destructible, cloud-like material nature, there is another superior nature which is eternal. It has no beginning and no end. Then he says, Yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nasyastu na vinashyati. When this material manifestation is annihilated, that superior nature will remain. When a cloud in the sky is annihilated, the sky remains. Similarly, when the cloud-like material manifestation is annihilated, the spiritual sky remains. This is called avyakto avyaktat. There are many volumes of Vedic literature containing information about the material sky and the spiritual sky. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we find a description of the spiritual sky. What its nature is, what kind of people live there, what their features are, everything. We can get information that in the spiritual sky, there are spiritual airplanes. The living entities there are all liberated. And when they fly in their airplanes, they look as beautiful as lightning. So everything in the spiritual world is substantial and original. The material world is only an imitation. Whatever we see in this material world is all imitation, shadow. It is just like a cinematographic picture in which we see only the shadow of the real thing. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1, it is said, Yatra Trisargo Mrisha. This material world is illusory. We have all seen a pretty mannequin of a girl in a shopkeeper's showcase. Every sane man knows that it is an imitation. But the so-called beautiful things in this material world are just like the beautiful girl in the shopkeeper's window. Indeed, whatever beautiful thing we see here in this material world is simply an imitation of the real beauty in the spiritual world. As Radha Swami says, Yat Satyataya Michya Sargopi Satyavat Pratiyate. The spiritual world is real, and the unreal material manifestation only appears real. Something is real only if it will exist eternally. Reality cannot be vanquished. Similarly, real pleasure must be eternal. Since material pleasure is temporary, it is not actual. And those who seek real pleasure don't take part in the shadow pleasure. They strive for this real eternal pleasure of Krishna consciousness. Here, Krishna says, Yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nasyatsu na vinashyati. When everything in the material world is annihilated, that spiritual nature will remain eternally. The aim of human life is to reach that spiritual sky. But people do not know the reality of the spiritual sky. The Bhagavatam says, Nate vidusvarthagatim hi Vishnu. People do not do their self-interest. They do not know that human life is meant for understanding spiritual reality and preparing ourselves for being transferred to that reality. It is not meant for remaining here in the material world. The whole of Vedic literature instructs us like this. Tamasima Jyotirgamaha. Don't remain in the darkness, go to the light. This material world is darkness. We are artificially illuminating it with electric lights and fires and so many other things, but its nature is dark. The spiritual world, however, it is not dark. It is full of light. Just as on the sun planet there is no possibility of darkness, so there is no possibility of darkness in the spiritual nature, because every planet there is self-illuminated. It is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita that the supreme destination from which there is no return is the abode of Krishna, the Supreme Person. The Brahma Samhita describes this supreme abode as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. Whatever variegatedness is manifest, there is all of the quality of spiritual bliss. Nothing there is material. That spiritual variegatedness is the spiritual expansion of the Supreme Godhead Himself. For the manifestation there is totally of the spiritual energy. Although the Lord is always in His supreme abode, He is nonetheless all-pervading by His material energy. So by His spiritual and material energies, He is present everywhere, in both the material and the spiritual universes. In Bhagavad Gita, the words Yasyantasthani bhutani indicate that everything is sustained by Him, whether it be spiritual or material energy. It is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita that only by bhakti or devotional service can one enter into the Vaikuntha spiritual planetary system. In all the Vaikunthas, there is only one Supreme Godhead, Krishna, who has expanded Himself into millions and millions of plenary portions. These plenary expansions are four-armed, and they preside over innumerable spiritual planets. They are known by a variety of names: Purushottama, Trivikrama, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Rishikesha, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Sridhara, Vasudeva, Damodara, Janardana, Narayana, Vamana, Padmanabha, and so on. These plenary expansions are like the leaves of a tree, the main trunk of the tree being like Krishna. Krishna, dwelling in Golok Vrindavan, His supreme abode, systematically and flawlessly conducts all affairs of both universes, material and spiritual, by the power of His all-pervasiveness. Now, if we are at all interested in reaching Krishna's supreme abode, then we must practice Bhakti Yoga. The word Bhakti means devotional service, or in other words, submission to the Supreme Lord. Krishna clearly says, Purushassa Parapartha Bhaktya Labhyas Tva Ananyaya. The words Tva Ananyaya here mean without any other engagement. So to reach the spiritual abode of the Lord, we must engage in pure devotional service to Krishna. One definition of bhakti is given in the authoritative book Narada Pancharatra. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam hushikena hushikesa sevanam bhaktiruchyate. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord. the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. First, he is freed from all material designations, and second, his senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. Now we are encumbered by so many bodily designations: Indian, American, African, European. These are all bodily designations. Our bodies are not we ourselves, yet we identify with these designations. Suppose one has received a university degree and identifies himself as an MA or a BA or a PhD. He is not that degree, but he has identified with the designation. So bhakti means to free oneself from these designations. Sarvopati vinirmuktam. Upadhi means designation. If someone gets the title Sir, he becomes very happy. Oh, I have this Sir title. He forgets that this title is only his designation, that it will exist only as long as he has his body. But the body is sure to be vanquished along with all its designations. When one gets another body, he gets other designations. Suppose in the present lifetime, one is an American. The next body he gets may be Chinese. Therefore, since we are always changing our bodily designations, we should stop identifying them as ourselves. When one is determined to free himself of all these nonsensical designations, then he can attain bhakti. In the above verse from the Narada Pancharatra, the word Nirmalam means completely pure. What is that purity? One should be convinced. I am spirit, aham brahmasmi. I am not this material body, which is simply my covering. I am an eternal servant of Krishna. That is my real identity. One who is freed from false designations and fixed in his real constitutional position always renders service to Krishna with his senses. Hrishikena Hrishikesa Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. The word Hrishika means the senses. Now our senses are designated. But when our senses are free from designations, and when with that freedom and in that purity we serve Krishna, that is devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami explains pure devotional service in this verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11. Anyabhilashita sunyam gnana karmadi anavrutam anukulyena krishnanaselanam bhaktiruttama. When first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, of knowledge tainted by monistic philosophy, and of fruitive action. A pure devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably, as Krishna desires. We have to serve Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. Also, we should be free from material desires. Anyabhilashita sunyam. Usually one wants to serve God for some material purpose. Of course, that is also good. If someone goes to God for some material gain, he is far greater than the person who never goes to God. That is admitted in Bhagavad Gita 7.16. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna arto jignasadadarthi gnani bharatarshava. O best among the Bharatas, Arjuna, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. But it is best that we not go to God with some desire for material benefit. We should be free of this impurity. Anyabhilashita sunyam. The next words Rupa Goswami uses to describe pure bhakti are Jnana Karmadi Anavrutam. The word Jnana refers to the effort to understand Krishna by mental speculation. Of course, we should try to understand Krishna, but we should always remember that he is unlimited and that we can never fully understand him. It is not possible for us to do this. Therefore, we have to accept whatever is presented to us in the revealed scriptures. The Bhagavad Gita, for example, is presented by Krishna for our understanding. We should try to understand him simply by hearing from books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The word karma means work with some fruitive result. If we want to practice pure bhakti, we should work in Krishna consciousness selflessly. not just to get some profit out of it. Next, Srila Rupa Goswami says that pure bhakti must be anukulyena, or favorable. We must culture Krishna consciousness favorably. We should find out what will please Krishna, and we should do that. How can we know what will please Krishna? By hearing Bhagavad Gita and taking the right interpretation from the right person. Then we will know what Krishna wants, and we can act accordingly. At that time, we will be elevated to first-class devotional service. So Bhakti Yoga is a great science, and there is immense literature to help us understand it. We should utilize our time to understand the science and thus prepare ourselves to receive the supreme benefit at the time of our death, to attain to the spiritual planets, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides. There are millions of planets and stars within this universe, yet this entire universe is only a small particle within the total creation. There are many universes like ours, and as mentioned before, the spiritual sky is 3 times as large as the total material creation. In other words, 3/4 of the total manifestation is in the spiritual sky. We get information from Bhagavad Gita that on every spiritual planet in the spiritual sky, there is an expansion of Krishna. They're all Purusha or persons. They are not impersonal. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Purushasya Parapartha Bhaktyalabhyascha Ananyaya. One can approach the Supreme Person only by devotional service, not by challenge, not by philosophical speculation, and not by exercising in this yoga or that yoga. No. It is clearly stated that one can approach Krishna only by surrender and devotional service. It is not stated that one can reach him by philosophical speculation or mental concoction or some physical exercise. One can reach Krishna only by practicing devotion, without deviating to fruitive activities, philosophical speculation, or physical exercise. Only by unalloyed devotional service without any admixture can we reach the spiritual world. Now, Bhagavad Gita further says, Yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. Krishna is such a great person that although situated in his own abode, he is still all-pervading, and everything is within him. How can this be? The sun is located in one place, but the sun rays are distributed all over the universe. Similarly, although God is situated in his own abode in the spiritual sky, his energy is distributed everywhere. Also, he is not different from his energy. Just as the sun and the sunshine are not different, in the sense that they are composed of the same illuminating substance. So Krishna distributes himself everywhere by his energies. And when we become advanced in devotional service, we can see him everywhere. Just as one can light a lamp anywhere by plugging it into the electric circuit. In his Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma describes the qualifications we require to see God. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santas Sadaiva Hudayesha Vilokayanti. Those who have developed love of God can constantly see God before them 24 hours a day. The word Sadaiva means constantly, 24 hours a day. If one is actually God realized, he doesn't say, oh, I saw God yesterday night, but now he is not visible. No, he is always visible because he is everywhere. Therefore, the conclusion is that we can see Krishna everywhere, but we have to develop the eyes to see him. We can do that by the process of Krishna consciousness. When we see Krishna and when we approach him in his spiritual abode, our life will be successful, our aims will be fulfilled, and we will be happy and prosperous eternally. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining us with this part 2 of the study of this book. And we'll hope that you will join us in the part 3 of the book, which will be next chapter, chapter 3. Thank you very much again. Hare Krishna.